Mais l'aide humanitaire a ses limites. Que faire lorsque des crimes contre l'humanité sont perpétrés et quand les équipes sont les témoins directs d'un génocide? Quand l'humanité est mise en échec? L'épouvantable génocide rwandais a fait cruellement comprendre à MSF et au monde entier que dans des circonstances à ce point extrêmes, les organisations humanitaires ne sont pas en mesure de soigner et de protéger les blessés, ni même d'assurer la sécurité de leur propre personnel.
Rwanda, April 1994. Close to 1 million human beings were massacred, Tutsis and moderate Hutus, in a period of 100 days, including about 250 MSF staff. When I think of Rwanda, I think of the 20th of April 1994, when MSF houses in 2 refugee camps were raided. They were set on fire. All our MSF staff were taken out violently. Their identity cards were closely examined for their ethnic groups. MSF Tutsi staff were placed on one side. MSF Hutu staff were placed on the other. The militia then gave the MSF Hutu staff guns and machetes, and they asked to kill their Tutsi colleagues. Those that refused were hacked to death in the most ruthless manner possible. We lost 50 MSF staff that day. So for me, the Rwandese genocide is about Gerard, it's about Everest, it's about Jean-Marie, friends and colleagues who died or were killed simply because of who they were. When I think of the Rwandese genocide, it reminds me of the 23rd of April 1994, when 150 civilians in the Butare hospital, women, children, they were massacred in front of our own eyes. Among them were several MSF staff. Sabine was one of those. Sabine was a Hutu. She was 7 months pregnant. She was a good friend. When they came to take Sabine, I intervened physically. I got between the soldier and I screamed, well, Sabine is Hutu. Sabine is Hutu, leave her alone. The soldier opens his back pocket, takes out a piece of paper on which there were several details. It was a list. He looks at me, he looks straight into my eyes and he says, Doctor, you are right. Sabine is Hutu, but this baby is going to be Tutsi. For the first time in Rwanda, I realized that the child follows the paternal line. So Sabine was killed, and so was her baby. So for me, the Rwandese genocide is about Sabine, it's about her baby, it's about all the other staff we lost. Staff that worked courageously even when they saw death in front of their own eyes. I think the Rwandese genocide is a historical moment for MSF, both as individuals and as an organization, because it was the first time in our history that we actually were witness to the massacre of over 1 million human beings. And in particular, it involved the massacre of close to 250 MSF colleagues. Such losses have been, and it still is, unprecedented in our history.
Un an plus tard seulement, l'humanité est à nouveau mise en défaut. Et ce malgré les promesses de la dite communauté internationale. En ex-Yougoslavie, les équipes de MSF sont des témoins directs de la politique d'épuration ethnique. En juin 1995, Christine Schmidt, coordinatrice de terrain pour MSF, arrive à Srebrenica. Cette ville est l'une des 6 enclaves constituées durant la guerre en ex-Yougoslavie. Le conflit a éclaté en 1992 et depuis 1993, MSF vient en aide aux habitants de Srebrenica. De nombreux musulmans s'y sont réfugiés et la population de l'enclave a rapidement augmenté. Lorsque Christine arrive à Srebrenica, 40 000 musulmans de Bosnie sont pris au piège dans la ville, assiégés par l'armée serbe de Bosnie.
I remember while arriving at a checkpoint, the Serbian checkpoint and then the UN checkpoint, and then walking into Srebrenica, it felt like a door closed behind me, and it felt, and that's what people in Srebrenica said later on, they were locked in. And people felt desperate, because the concept of the enclave, what was the future, what was the exit strategy? Nobody really knew what was going to come. And would they really be protected like General Morillon promised in '93?
Le 6 juillet, les forces serbes de Bosnie commencent à bombarder l'enclave. Les bombardements se poursuivent pendant 5 jours. La peur et la panique s'emparent des habitants. De nombreux blessés sont transportés à l'hôpital, où l'équipe chirurgicale est complètement débordée, épuisée et à court de médicaments et de matériel. L'équipe de MSF se demande combien de temps ils pourront tenir le coup sans assistance extérieure.
On the 11th of July, after these 5 days of heavy shelling, it was relatively quiet in the morning, and I thought things get better. But then we realized that part of the population had fled to Potocari, the UN bases, 5 kilometers outside of the main city. The local doctors had asked us, or had informed us, that they would transport the patients to Potocari, the basis of the UN. There's a big part of the population, whilst maybe half of the remaining population fled as well to Potocari. We realized that the enclave was empty. What to do? So Daniel and myself and the national staff who was still with us packed the remaining patients from the hospital into our cars and fled as well to Potocari. The blue helmets were present in Potocari, where the population was sitting and waiting for what was going to happen. Then things happened very quickly. The Bosnian Serb army drove with many trucks and buses into Potocari, and on 12th of July started to deport women, children, old people, and started to separate the men. And I did not see anything being done to stop that. And what we know today is that in these days, when a part of the population was still in Potocari, that the massacres had started already. I heard executions in the evening. I heard about a house where men were being guarded. I was in contact with Franken, Robert Franken, the deputy commander of the Blue Helmets, and once in a while I shared my concerns with him, especially about this house where the men were being kept. But he said there was no problem, nothing was happening with them. So, no, the population was not protected, the promise was wrong, the promise was false. One of the situations I will never forget is on 13 July I was among the displaced and still looking for patients, and a young Muslim father came towards me with his maybe 1-year-old daughter on his arm, followed by a heavily armed Bosnian Serb soldier. And although not understanding the father, I did understand. He had wanted to give me his child because he knew what was going to happen to him. And he had nobody to take care for his child. So he gave it to me and he left. And, oh God. In this moment I realized that this was a moment where a father was being separated from his child. And indeed, he had been discovered later on in a mass grave. Irma, that was the name of the little girl, remained with us with the patients.
La petite fille est sauvée et sera évacuée. Le massacre de Srebrenica pose inévitablement cette question. Fallait-il tirer les conséquences des limites de l'intervention médicale et quitter l'enclave?
I personally have the very strong opinion that we should have worked in Srebrenica. I never doubt if we should have been there or not. And why is that? Because I believe that our presence made a difference. What is the difference? The difference was there was medical care for the patients who came from Srebrenica hospital and who were in Potocari in the UN bases. So that was our responsibility, first of all. Then we were able to rescue 7 national male staff, which is very important. And the advocacy part, that's important. However, having said that, what difference did it make for the population? The mother who lost her son or the wife who lost her husband, for them, the killing had not been stopped. Nobody was able, or nobody stopped it. And so for the women of Srebrenica, maybe our presence didn't make a big difference. But I still believe that the patient care, the advocacy, the national staff who is still alive today, that is a difference, and that justifies that we were working in Srebrenica.
Did we fail? I think the undeniable truth is that when we look back at the Rwandese genocide, it occurred. And today, none of us has the moral authority to deny ourselves our own share of historical responsibility and guilt for the loss of 1 million lives. So yes, indeed, we failed. The international community failed. We as an organization failed. I as an individual failed, because in Rwanda it was humanity itself that failed. And when humanity fails, we all fail. I think as humanitarians, under these circumstances, we must be led, or we must let our conscience drive and lead our own actions, because we are very likely to be correct.